everybody, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to Jobe's Town with a suburb of Chevrolet, which I happen to love also. I've built many Chevrolets, and I happen to tune them also. Back in my day, before we had all the computers doing stuff, we tuned carburetors to do whatever we wanted, and we can make them take boost, we can make them take a two-step, we can make them take lots of power. It's all good. And this is where he started. I kind of wanted to show you guys that he brought me he brought me this stuff. I sourced my parts, but he brought me this carb in this box, which we originally put this carb on there. Yeah, that's what it is. Not even sure how that's pronounced. Yep. And it was a good little carburetor. We got it actually started on that carburetor. I went out to his shop up on the mountain, out on Horsepower Mountain. You guys might get to see an install too. I went out there, got it timed for him, got the engine, good, and got it running, and it was running okay. But he said once he was able to get it out and get it warmed up and cruising, that carburetor, it was not good, and it was just way too rich. The jetting was way too off, and it just didn't want to run good overall once it got warmed up. So I said, let's just rebuild the original one, because it's a good old Rochester Monojet that these carbs are good for pretty much ever and ever and ever. They're easy to rebuild, easy to take care of. Couple parts here. Luckily, the parts diagram is not very extensive on these low carbs because that's the Monojet. It's only got one jet in there, one throw. And the choke is shut. There we go. Open that up. Yep, one hole. And it flows fuel and runs engines awesome. And what this is actually for, it's for a 1965 Chevy pickup. It's way cool. It's 3 on the tree, bone stock from 1965, except for the stuff that we kind of spruced up. And, because just to get it back on the street, to where it's reliable. And this kind of came into play because the other carb was not going to work without a lot of tuning, and this one I knew we could just rebuild and get it tuned just a little bit for some ethanol, for ethanol pump gas now, and it's going to be great. So let's go ahead and get it popped apart here. I'm going to go ahead and get this body pulled apart. I'll get the body popped apart, and I'll show you guys a couple of details on what we got going on. And if you guys can see, I clean everything up because usually my bench is a mess because I got projects and projects and projects and projects and projects. But I like to get things somewhat clinical for the carburetors because your parts have to be clean, always. And really with the carburetor, it's reassembly. Anybody can take a carburetor apart. It's how you put it back together. So let's get it apart and let's get it put back together correctly with our measure so we can check everything. And we're going to be good. Get that Chevy fired up and rolling. Okay, and on this one, since it's an old school carburetor, we got our old school tools. You need on these, you need a pair of pliers and some good screwdrivers, and you're going to be good to go. Pop up these 4 bolts up here on top, and we're going to get it apart. Washer. Need you. And on these two, always note to yourself, this is for the choke. Choke cable goes here, so this piece needs to stay here, and our label needs to stay on this side. Okay, and just like most carbs, give them a tap to kind of pop them apart, and I can feel, it's moving. Okay, it's good. See if our body is going to separate here. Okay, it's going to separate. Good. And our gasket needs to stay with the top half. If you guys can see the gasket, there's a gasket in there. The bottom half will separate from the top half. And over here, need to make sure our lever is not hooked to our accelerator pump. That's our choke right here. Make sure that's out of the way. Our accelerator pump is inside the body here, right in here. Okay, gasket, floats. Okay, good. Accelerator pump right there, getting hung up on it. Hang out right there. Gasket's hung up on there. There we go. Okay, we're good. And there's our two pieces. Successfully apart. Awesome. Looking good in there overall too. Oh, and I see what the problem is right from the get-go. Oh, geez. Okay. Wow, big problem. Okay, we got to start right here, guys. Once you get the two halves separated, your accelerator pump right here may hang up in the body right here because the gasket will hang up on it. We're going to go ahead and push our pin out here. That's our float pin. And our floats, and they are looking good. Just checking them for any holes or any issues. You always want to check right there and right there on the center where it's sealed shut. And then of course on the body where the arms attach it, that all looks good. Okay, and we'll check that to make sure it floats here. But I can clearly see what's going on now. Yeah, okay. This gasket was definitely leaking and it's torn. I wanted to see if it was the correct gasket because you do have a couple choices, and it looks like this one is the correct gasket because it does line up with the hole here, which it has to line up with that vacuum hole. That hole right there has to line up, which it does, so I think we're good there. But the gasket is torn. If you guys can see there, way torn. I think what it was, somebody took this carb apart and didn't replace the gasket. I can see the gasket will always tell you guys. If you guys can see how it's darker right there and way dark over here. It was leaking a lot right here. It was leaking into the throat of the carburetor all the way around. So it was definitely leaking, quite a bit. And yeah, this gasket is the biggest problem. Because this gasket, and I think too, this gasket is maybe too thin. Because the gaskets actually come in different thicknesses. So it has to be the correct thickness for the float height to be correct. If that makes sense. So yeah, big leak, way big leak. And the leak in here is really what's going to determine your run. And he was saying, this carb, it is a stock carb. It would start and run okay, but once it got warmed up, it was doing some weird stuff. And then I asked him when he just dropped off the carb, if he put a new fuel pump on. He's like, yeah, I put a new pump on the engine, so it's getting good fuel pressure. And I think we're pushing past this needle and seat, because let's check this on the top half. Let's go ahead and pop this piece off here, which has our jet holder. Which actually the rest of the gasket is right there. That's torn, so we need to get that out. Go ahead and unscrew that piece. There's one bolt in the center that holds the tower, the jet tower. And I call it the tower, but it's actually down in the fuel because it goes down in there like that. Okay, that's good. That's good. That all looks great, actually. Plunger looks good. Spring looks good. Yeah, that's all totally fine. No issues there. What we need to get off. Actually, I can go ahead and pull out my. Actually, I think it's gonna. Yeah. My needle. Needle and seat is right there. Let's take a close look at this needle because I am very suspect of this. Yeah, I see one ridge right there in the middle. What it does, when the needle is closed for too long, it gets a ridge in there. When that ridge is there, it's going to leak forever. Needs to be replaced. With a new one right there. Thanks, Wagner. And that piece is our needle. Our seat screws into the carburetor right here. So let's go ahead and pop this seat out and see what it looks like. There we go, pop loose. And really what I want to check, what I've seen the biggest problem with these on, there's supposed to be a gasket on the other side. And if that gasket goes bad, it will leak fuel always because the gasket is sealing the fuel also. So let's get in there and see if the gasket is still there. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. I see some, actually doesn't look too bad. And I do see a gasket right here, which does look like the correct gasket, because it is a fuel safe neoprene gasket, little red one right there. Okay, that was in there, so that part was correct. And what we also need to check is, oh wow, I can see all kinds of crud. Where that gasket was supposed to be sealing, yeah, it's not very clean. See, I need to get in there, clean that out, and get all the new parts reassembled here with the new needle and seat, and we're going to be good. And let's get this old piece of gasket out of there that needs to go away. That hopefully comes out of there peacefully. Oh yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Oh yeah, okay, we're good. That doesn't look too bad. Okay, and let's just check here. That piece is junk. Pretty sure it's this one right here. Okay, yeah, that lines up perfect with the bore right there. See how that lines up perfect right there? Let me show you guys on the other gasket here. This one's a bit different for the later model carbs. See how loose it is right there? It's really loose on the piece there. And if you look here, how it doesn't line up with the hole. The hole is just barely off. That's the wrong gasket. Grab this one again. Line it up on there. See how it lines up perfect with our vacuum transfer port? Lines up tight here. We'll have to push that on, and lines up perfect here. That's our gasket. Okay, awesome. We're good to go. Okay guys, top part is looking good. Gonna work on this bottom half now. And first thing I noticed when we set it down here on the bench, my bench is dead flat here. I lap stuff on it all the time. Bottom of this carburetor is not so flat. I can see on the old gasket spot where it was possibly leaking, and the new gasket is going to line up good. It lines up with the vacuum transfer port right here, so that is the correct gasket, so we're good there. So let's go ahead and flatten her up a little bit, get that mating surface worked down there a little bit. And the last thing I want to check on here is my choke action. Up here on top is the choke. Choke opens and closes, and you want to make sure it's hooked up with this rod. What it does is it opens the throttle just a little bit. See, the choke is open there. When I close it for startup, so it opens the throttle just a little bit. That little bit of opening the throttle is what helps the startup and what gets everything running. Okie dokie, I think now we are good to go, and I'm pretty sure this was our real problem. We found our culprit right here between this torn gasket, which somebody didn't replace, which need to be replaced, and this leaky needle and seat. I think we're going to be good to go over here. And I do have a couple more gaskets here for this carburetor. On this series, there is I think there was a B series, a BC series, and then a BC A, maybe BC-A. And I think this one is right in the middle. This is a BC, and this is our top gasket up here for our air cleaner. Good to go. And this is our bottom gasket down here where we got it all lapped and fit in. That's going to be good to go. That'll go on when it gets installed. And our last gasket is this one right here that goes on the fuel inlet. But he said that it was leaking at the body. It wasn't leaking here. So we have another extra O-ring or another gasket to go in there if we need it. So we'll get this installed and be good to go. Okay, I'll get everything packed up so we can keep all the extra goodies, because we need that the bottom gasket and the fuel gasket possibly. But I'm glad this bottom end cleaned up good too, looking great. And there's a couple little stains there now, but you can't feel them. They're totally gone. There's just a small stain there now, so it's totally flat. And let's just see here now. Oh yeah, that fits perfect. That's going to bolt up great to the intake, and I'm going to check the intake for flatness when I go out there and get it installed. So we're going to be good to go. But I'm glad that it's this far and is going to be good, and we don't have to start over with another, because I've done these before where you need to find another carburetor because somebody's already been in there and messed with stuff. Luckily this one is bone stock. Nobody's ever touched anything. It's a complete stock build, complete good to go. And now we're going to be good. I went ahead and just opened up the main jet just slightly too. Basically 2 numbers. I went up 2 numbers for ethanol, which is kind of what I've worked out on these carbs. They flow a lot of fuel, so they're good. And they also have the accelerator pump, which is down in there. The accelerator pump, which is down in right here. So they, when you push the throttle, they squirt in fuel every time, and you're good to go. So here very soon, if you guys want to see the install, let me know, and we'll go out there and we'll get this carburetor bolted back on, and we're going to be ready to ride. And a lot of this was for cruising Lindbergh. He was hoping to have it done, but it just wasn't quite right to where we could get it out on Lindbergh and actually cruise and have fun. So next time coming up, he's going to be out there cruising. It's going to be good. And running on a carburetor with an old points ignition, and nothing new, but it runs very good. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. Way more to come. When in doubt, figure it out. Let's ride. Okay, and last thing, you guys know I'm a little different, and I've tested every carburetor I've ever worked on like this, which is a bunch of them, and this way works. I promise you. We're testing our needle and seat to make sure it seals. We're going to use this and we're going to blow into it. You guys listen. That's leaking because the needle is open. Flip it over, needle shut, and you can hear it. It's moving. I can't blow through it. Oh yeah, working great. Test with your mouth.